So what do you think people should be doing for better mental health during this crisis?
To really focus on the four pillars of mental wellness. One is we have to put some energy into sleeping properly. Secondly, we must eat smart. If you eat like real lively foods, then you have a different glow and an energy to you. Number three, figure out a way to stimulate your mind and activate your body. Figure out new ways to stimulate your mind and have fun. What gives them joy, fun, and pleasure. And last but not least, connection is so critically important to one's mental wellness.
Ready to live at the higher vibrations, where peace, love, joy, and good health are the daily standard? That's what this show is all about. Welcome to Vibe. And here's your host, Robin Openshaw.
Hey everyone, it's Robin Openshaw and welcome back to the Vibe Show. Today I am excited to interview Dr. Joseph Yee, and it's a former tennis teammate of mine. Shout out to Shannon Mangum, who reached out to me and she said, you know, you've done like content with holistic dentists and holistic veterinarian. I've even had a holistic eye doctor, so many different ones. She goes, well, we need to hear from a holistic psychiatrist. She goes, and I follow one who I think is really amazing. Dr. Yee graduated from UMDNJ Robert Wood Johnson Medical School, and then he did a psychiatric residency at Cooper University Hospital. And he was working in the heart of Camden, New Jersey, and he was working with very difficult cases of psychiatric addiction and detox patients. And while there, you guys will recognize this name, he apprenticed under the New York Times bestselling author and my friend, Joel Fuhrman, MD, on nutritional therapy, which I think is really exciting. And I can't even imagine how many other professionals Joel Fuhrman has influenced by being inside the system, but helping, you know, someone who's going to be working with people on their mental health over the course of a whole career to understand the critical component of their nutrition. And I bet that Dr. Yee is going to tell us that there's very, very few of his colleagues who even get into that. So he's an expert in addictions, behavioral health. And so I just want to welcome Dr. Joseph Yee to the Vibe Show.
Robin, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's really an honor to be here. And I know you've had a very busy day, so super grateful to be here and connect with the audience.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And I'm a former psychotherapist myself, and we talk a lot about content like that. And so I'm the only person I could think of I know who does holistic psychiatry is Kelly Brogan. Based on where you are, I bet you know her.
The queen. You mean the queen of psychiatry?
The queen of holistic psychiatry. Yeah. So I'm glad to know there's another one. I don't know how many of y'all there are, but she's really been a lightning rod, and there's lots of criticism of her. And so I'm curious, what was your background? I mean, I guess you went to traditional medical school and you probably felt like if all you did is prescribe psychotropic meds that you were failing your patients in some way. Did you start that way? I'm curious, how did you come to holistic psychiatry?
Yeah, that's interesting because when you go to medical school, everyone has to take internal medicine, surgery, gynecology, pediatrics, and psychiatry is part of the curriculum, but there's nothing that says holistic psychiatry, so just like with Kelly Brogan, I came into the system learning to prescribe medications, learning about diseases, right?
Yeah.
And I guess at some point, things started shifting when, after about 2-3 years of medical school, I'm kind of questioning, when am I going to start learning about healthcare instead of disease care? That's a famous line from Dr. Joel Fuhrman. And I remember, Robin, there was this course called Biochemistry of Nutrition. And I'm thinking, finally, like I'm going to learn how to eat properly and teach clients and patients how to take better care of themselves. But then like you learn things like, okay, this is what a fat triglyceride molecule looks like. And when you eat foods that have fats, this is what it breaks down into, these triglyceride molecules. And you need to memorize the structure of this triglyceride molecule for your exam. And I'm thinking like, how is this going to serve me or you or my clients? It would make more sense, right, to teach people how to eat healthy fats that are found in nuts and seeds and omega-3 fatty acids. If you're vegan, I guess there's plenty of different ways of getting those kinds of fats. But I guess that's the beginning of me questioning the system. And yeah, I would say that I interviewed Kelly from my Instagram live, and we had a great time getting to know her. And she said that she had about an hour a week and she went to Cornell Medical School. I wasn't as smart as her, she went to Cornell, but I went to Rutgers Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. And I would say, Robin, about less than 10% of our curriculum was on wellness, functional medicine, how to heal. It was always about masking symptoms. The damage is already done. And now what do we do? So graduating from medical school, I got to be honest with your audience. They deserve the courtesy of the truth that I really didn't learn anything to help people from medical school.
Wow.
Maybe in residency, I learned about medications to help people detox, because in Camden, New Jersey, it's there's a huge substance population there. So heroin and crack is big in Camden, New Jersey. So I learned how to detox there. But like you mentioned before, it wasn't until I read Dr. Joel Fuhrman's book, Disease Proof Your Child. Now, he's known for that book, Eat to Live, right? That's the New York Times bestseller. That's the one that put him on the map.
Right.
But it was this book that ironically didn't do very well, called Disease Proof Your Child, that a friend of mine bought for me for Christmas. And I'm like, dude, I don't even have kids. Like, what the hell is this? He's like, just read this book. Like, this will teach you what you need to know. Like, it'll get the journey started on holistic wellness. And so Dr. Joel Fuhrman was the guy that interestingly pulled me out of the matrix of the mainstream narrative of healthcare, or disease care rather.
Well, you were still really open. I mean, if you were 20 years into your career and very, very entrenched in what makes you a living, and any shakeup of that would be a potential loss of decades of your career and your reputation, he must have gotten you really green, and so you were kind of wide open to practicing psychiatry a different way. Do you still, like, every day see patients and prescribe psychotropics, or you just do a lot more?
Yeah, so I work about 3 days a week now, and to answer your social media is growing, and I noticed that in 1 hour of speaking on my social media live, on my Instagram live, I could influence. Last night I was on, and I think 53,000 people showed up total. So in 1 hour, I could influence 53,000 people versus one client. So social media, to be very clear, isn't making me a dime, but my purpose is to create change, create awareness, help people take better care of themselves, and forget money. But the karma usually comes back a good way when you keep your intentions pure. So I love doing it. And so as a result, I'm only working about 3 days a week. To answer your question before about medications, yes, I still do prescribe some medications, but you have to understand that I inherit a lot of clients who had some serious mismedication and overdiagnosis from other doctors that screwed up. It's so interesting, Robin. Like, people go see a psychiatrist, they spend about 20 minutes with them, and they trust their life with this new doctor. And the doctor goes through a checklist and basically says, oh, you're feeling depressed, you lack motivation, things that you used to have pleasure engaging in, you're not sleeping right, you're having loss in appetite, you're feeling guilty and irritable. Well, you must be depressed based on this symptom checklist. So here's Prozac for you. And I guess that's kind of where it just doesn't make sense to me. It's certainly possible that someone could be coming in because they're not feeling good as a result of sleeping very poorly. They're eating very poorly. You're the green smoothie girl, right? So if people don't eat right, they're going to feel like garbage. They connect with very toxic people. They're not going to feel very good too. So holistic psychiatry is like, you're looking at the person as a whole. And the problem that I have with mainstream psychiatry is that you're looking at it from one angle, which is the symptom angle. You feel depressed. Oh, so we have to give you a medication that helps with your depression. So I've always felt that symptoms are a way of your body communicating to us, as far as our body doesn't really speak language, right? The only way it could communicate with us is through feelings. So if you're feeling very tired or angry, irritable, depressed, anxious, they're all forms of communication from the body. So I'm trying to help my clients recognize that try to connect with your body and understand what the heck is going on before you trust your life with another doctor who spends 15 minutes with you and decides that you are labeled with some sort of a medical condition, which may or may not be true.
Yeah, I bet your job has changed a lot in the last 6 months. I mean, there are obviously plenty of addicted folks and plenty of depressed folks before, but now there's this whole new set of challenges as just about all of us are feeling instability in our lives. We don't know if our country is stable. We don't know if our income is stable and whether we can count on it. We're worried about food stability heading into the winter. How's that going for you, having to treat all these people? And you probably don't know what's happening in the future either. What's new in the last 6 months for you?
Oh, my goodness. Well, can I answer that by starting, because you're a big tennis fan, right?
I play 4-0 tennis. Yeah, exactly.
4-0?
Yeah.
Damn, Robin. Wait, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How are you feeling this U.S. Open situation? Does it feel a little odd that Serena hits the down the line winner and it's dead silent? You know?
Is that because nobody's there? I've seen very little of it. I've had a crazy week. I ran a protest here in Utah. I got married. It's my husband's 40th
Oh, wow.
birthday. It's been crazy. So I've hardly seen any of the US Open. He was watching it for 5 minutes last night. That's almost all I've seen.
Yeah, more than ever before, I believe in energy. And it's like empty, not just physically, like literally, but on a spiritual, metaphysical basis, the energy is just off. And it just goes to show you how important the human connection is. And when I used to watch the US Open and the crowds are cheering, even like I'm a Roger Federer fan, I'm kind of anti-Djokovic, and just the crowds cheering and going back and forth. I mean, it riles you up. It makes you feel alive. And that element is definitely missing for sure.
So they're playing the US Open with no audience. It's all televised.
It's televised, but like you have your coaches there, and you might be able to invite like 2 of your homies. So it's like, I don't know. Dominic Thiem could hit like a crazy one-hand backhand out of line, and then you hear like 3 people clapping. It's pretty bizarre, but yeah, this whole thing has taken the world by a storm, and my frustration, along with my curiosity, Robin, is why isn't mental health or mental wellness being brought to the forefront? Because everyone's feeling uneasy, right? Everyone's feeling uncomfortable these days, and everyone's confused, and we don't know what to believe. There's data coming out saying that this is very dangerous, and there's other data coming out saying that, hey, 99.96% of the population who get affected by this conquer this thing. So technically, Team Human has a 99.96% winning percentage, and we're led to believe that this thing that has a 0.04 win percentage, we need to be scared the hell out of this thing and take these drastic measures to not lose to this thing. Like imagine if you were going into like if you had to bet on a cage fight between like Conor McGregor, and he has a 99.96% winning percentage, and his opponent, has a 0.04% win percentage, I would choose to believe, Robin, that you'd like to put $100 on Conor McGregor. You know what I'm saying? Right. And that's why a lot of people are very confused, and I think people are kind of questioning the mainstream narrative, like what's really going on, what's their agenda here. So that's where I'm at right now. It's very confusing.
Yeah, we've interviewed everybody from Judy Mikovits to Bobby Kennedy and everybody in between. And I sort of abandoned normal programming, which is everything to do with a high vibration life. That was what we were doing for a few years before this happened. And I literally just abandoned the normal programming and have reached out to all the people who have something interesting to say about what's really going on. I cannot believe, and haven't been able to believe for months, that this is even about a virus. It's just keeping virus fear at fever pitch. And in my opinion, it's just a battering ram or a Trojan horse for a political agenda. And this is the most complex and biggest hoax I think ever pulled on the American public. But since you have that opinion, I mostly want to talk to you about holistic psychiatry and what you're seeing with addiction and any words of wisdom that you have, because I know that my audience is struggling.
Yeah.
But talk to us about masks. You know, we're having a war here in Utah. We're marching on the governor this Saturday over putting all of our children in this crazy dystopia. And his excuse is, well, it was either that or the teachers union was going to strike.
Right.
And I don't believe that, really. I think he was under a lot of political pressure. I think he's really subverted, from what I've seen, watching him very, very closely the last 6 months and wondering if he's ever going to stop this insanity. But what do you think the psychological consequences are for adults of masks, and anything you want to say about the kids too?
Yeah. Man, where do I start with? What I try to tell my clients is that because I still see clients, we give them the options at Modern Behavioral. It's a group practice. It's a holistic group behavioral health practice in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And we give our clients the option of coming in or not. And some clients come in, but they still wear the mask in front of me. In fact, I went to see my father for the first time about a week ago, and I haven't seen him in like 5 months, Robin. And he was like 8 feet away from me with the mask, and he's 80 years old. So I could be understanding of that. But what I usually try to tell people is that, the pores in the mask, this is nothing new. This is nothing original, Robin, but the pores in the mask is a lot bigger than the size of a potential virus. And so, I think Dr. Rashid Buttar gave this analogy where it's like trying to catch a baseball with a hula hoop,
Yeah.
or try to cage flies, with a fence. Like it's not going to happen. So why are we forced to wear this thing? And forget the health consequences, but let's talk about the psychological consequences here. So what I'm seeing is that when you wear a mask, it increases, social distancing and isolation, right? Mm-hmm. And when that happens, it programs within us subconsciously that our neighbors, our loved ones, can potentially contaminate us. And when we get contaminated, we could kill our family and our loved ones. So there's this underlying fear that's being programmed within us. And this increasing fear and discomfort around our loved ones, unfortunately, leads to more people being comfortable with just being comfortable. And we, of course, know that in order for you to be successful in life, and I'm not defining success by making a lot of money, but just having the amazing quality of life that you seek, you must be willing to move towards your discomfort zone. You see all these success psychology guys like Tony Robbins, they're always saying things like, in order for you to have the things that you've never had before, you must be willing to do the things that you've never done before. So if you're always in your comfort zone, in your parents' basement, you're only going to go so far in life. You got to step out into new territory. And obviously when you do so, you're going to feel uncomfortable. And that's the only way that you could achieve something new in life, something amazing in life. And when you're feeling uncomfortable, it's like a good cue that you may be in a new direction to achieve something new and amazing. Now, obviously, I'm not asking people to stick their hand into fire. That's uncomfortable. Like you're just going to burn your hand and lose the ability to move your hand and stuff like that. But there has to be, a person cannot be successful in life without overcoming some level of adversity. And what I'm seeing now, Robin, in my clientele, from my clinical experience, is that more and more people are just home playing video games. They're not really hanging out with their friends as much. Like some people are still kind of doing that, but I'm seeing this trend of more people just staying home, having some virtual calls, but then that's kind of dying down. That's not as fun or as magical as like the human connection, like really being there in person. So I see a future, if this continues, of more and more people being isolated and anxious and just comfortable with being comfortable and not willing to venture out into new territory to achieve something new. And that's the big problem that I'm seeing for a near future.
So what do you think people should be doing based on what you're seeing in the last 6 months? What should they be doing for better mental health during this? Every time somebody says it's a pandemic, I feel the need to explain to them that the pandemic is not our problem. The ridiculous reaction of everyone almost to the pandemic is the problem. But yeah. However you want to put it, what should people do for mental wellness during this crisis?
Yeah, in my opinion, Robin, this is the greatest overreaction in the history of mankind. And basically what I would recommend to everyone that's listening to this is to really focus on the 4 pillars of mental wellness. And I talked about it on my recently started YouTube channel about how the four basics here. One is we have to put some energy into sleeping properly. You know, there are a lot of people that are up all night checking their social media, playing video games, whatever they're doing. They have some more free time now. They're out of work. So people are on their phones way, way, way too much. And of course, we know that the blue rays from the light from the phones is going to mess with your sleep and your melatonin production. So people are, I'm seeing a lot of people not sleeping properly. So first steps first, we have to sleep properly, about 6 to 9 hours a night. Optimally, the target should be somewhere around 7 to 8. So let's focus on our sleep hygiene. Secondly, as I'm sure you know, we must eat smart. One of the things that I love about what Dr. Furman always says is never diet. You know, the word diet is like so unsexy. Right? Diet is so unsexy. It just has the word die in it. So yeah, instead of
It sounds temporary.
yeah, and we could learn to eat smart, and there's ways of doing so. Having said that, what you know, there's people who are nutritarians, they're the vegans, the keto guys, the paleo guys. Like everyone has their different views. I don't believe one diet fits all. It's my opinion, but I think we all must agree that we should try to stay away from fake foods, right? I mean, even if you're a vegetarian per se, um, I know vegans that eat like all this processed vegan stuff, and it's like, or the keto guys, and they're eating all these like patties, meat patties and stuff. And so my general rule of thumb, because I want to just keep it very simple for my clients, is to learn to eat real foods. If you want to eat meat, eat that meat from the bone, eat the chicken from the bone. Try to eat more foods that are alive, because if you really think about it, Robin, like if I put a cracker in one hand, and then I have a sliced strawberry in another, you can look at it and be like, one's dead, and the other one seems to have some level of life in there. And if you keep eating the dead stuff, you're going to feel a certain way. And if you eat like real lively foods, then you have a different glow and an energy to you, right? So it's absolutely critical that we eat real foods, like almost like I guess the caveman diet, like eat something that came from the earth that even back in the day people could have eaten. So that's number two, eating smart. The problem with the recovery community is a lot of people, they stop using a drug or an alcohol and they think they won the battle. And we all know that recovery is a very active process. So for some reason, when I start talking about nutrition, the guys in the recovery community don't want to hear it. You know, they're still smoking, they're still eating like garbage, and they just think that, hey, I stopped using this drug, so I'm good. No, because we are, you know, that saying, we are what we eat. I mean, that's in my opinion, I think that's a complete crock of horseshit. We are what we ate. So if you've been eating like garbage for 20 plus years, and all of a sudden you have a blueberry, you know, a bowl of blueberry fruit salad, and you think you're healthy, that's not the case. You are not what you eat. You are what you ate and what you have been eating. So to try to convince someone to revamp their eating style is very, very, very challenging. So I try to keep it very simple. If they cannot, or if they're not willing to commit to that, then I at least suggest that they take a supplement, some form of an extracted nutrient to help them get what the body needs to function properly. And last but not least, I'm sorry, there's two, that was number two. So number three is we have to, our body was meant to move. And there's so many people that are very stagnant, and they wonder why they're depressed all the time. And they believe that they have a Prozac deficiency, which isn't the case. They don't know how they don't know how to have fun with their mind and their body. So I used to say exercise, but now I'm saying figure out a way to stimulate your mind and activate your body. Figure it out. And I think you know for sure that like when you play tennis, don't you feel amazing afterwards? Maybe not when you lose, but
it's funny because I was just talking to my husband today about how I almost feel like quitting tennis for a while, just because I get so frustrated with my tennis teammates who want to talk about masks and quarantines and how scared they are of a virus. And
oh my goodness,
he's like, you can't, because it's both those things. It's not just exercise. I do exercise at home. I have equipment here at the house. I can always get in the cardio, but it's also the stimulation. What did you call it? mental stimulation as well.
Yes, exactly. Stimulate the mind and activate the body. So, I mean, you can stimulate your mind by experiencing new things, right? So if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, at a certain point, your mind's going to get bored. Imagine watching a movie that you know the ending to over and over again. That's going to get boring after a while. So you got to figure out new ways to stimulate your mind and have fun. I'm a big believer that the opposite of depression is fun. So I prescribe fun. But it's interesting, Robin, like a lot of people don't know what they want, what excites them. So a lot of what I do in my practice is not medicate people, but to help them explore what gives them joy, fun, and pleasure, and help explore that angle. So number 3 was activate the mind, stimulate the mind and activate the body. And last but not least, this is the big issue that we're facing today, Robin, is that connection is so critically important to one's mental wellness. Yeah. We all, like, you could be eating right, you could be exercising, experiencing new things, you could be sleeping right, but you have that toxic dude that you're hanging out with all the time, you're going to feel like shit. So I'm a big believer in cutting out people that, do like a cost benefit analysis of a relationship. And if someone, there could be someone who doesn't make you feel the best, but you stand to gain a lot from that relationship, like a business relationship, so on. So if the net is agreeing, okay, this person might be worth being in your life. But if all the person does is put you in the red zone where they never have money, so you always have to spot them, they don't inspire you, they don't really help you become a better person, and you're always feeling more negative after you hang out with them, that's a toxic relationship. So it's not just connection with other people, but connecting with yourself. I'm a big believer in meditation, at least 1 minute a day. Everyone can meditate at least 1 minute a day. So that's an opportunity for you to connect with your true self, your spirits. And also for those who believe, connecting with the higher power as well. So connection is absolutely critical to one's mental well-being. But unfortunately, Robin, we're facing a situation where connecting with other people is not allowed in certain parts of the world. And you get punished very heavily if you do so, especially in like Victoria. Oh my goodness. Have you ever heard about this nonsense in Victoria, Australia?
Oh, it's terrible. They seem to be like the pilot program for some things. Did you see the video of the woman who got arrested and taken to jail, a pregnant woman right in front of her 2 little kids for planning a protest?
Did you see the one with the 2 elderly lady getting arrested? These 2 elderly women in the park, and like 6 cops surround them. And look, I have friends in the law enforcement. Not everyone's like that, but these guys in Victoria, I mean, it's getting pretty serious out there. And a lot of people in America don't know about it. That's the thing. This isn't like world news here. A lot of people, when I ask them if they know about Australia, they have no clue. So it's, my heart goes out to the beautiful people in Australia. They don't deserve this. So going back to what we're talking about, connection is, we're being disconnected from connection. And that's a big problem in our country. So if you're living in an area where it's hard to connect with other people, I would say that at least do a face-to-face call with someone instead of just doing a regular phone call. At least seeing, like, there's studies that show that when you are connected with another person face-to-face, the connection between the two is better. The human bond is better. If you're living with loved ones, I would ask everyone listening to at least give all your loved ones that you feel comfortable being around, right? At least a 12-second hug per day, 12 seconds, because studies have shown that 12 seconds is the minimum amount of time required for 2 people to share their love vibrations between one another. So my wife and my kids, we hug each other every day for 12 seconds at least. And it's amazing. It's like a simple thing like that just makes people feel better. Because I'm used to doing the bro hug, right? It's like a 2-second, hey, what's up, brother? Quick hug. No, not that. We need to hold each other for 12 seconds. And initially it might feel a little bit weird, but for the meantime, we have to learn to adapt to the current situation, and connection is so critically important that I'm asking everyone here to meditate for at least a minute, connect with the higher power, and with your loved ones that you're living with. Give everyone a 12-second hug.
I love that. I'm going to actually time it and see what a 12-second hug is really like. I'm not sure anybody besides John gets 12-second hugs from me, but there's nothing. I had a psychologist come to one of my protests, and she had prepared some comments. I had seen what she was saying, and I reached out to her and asked her to speak. And she talked about how difficult the last 6 months have been for her husband, whose love language is physical touch. And people think that those with a high need for physical touch, that it's all about sex. And we think of men when we think of who needs the most physical touch. But what she said is, she said, don't, kind of set that aside. He wants to shake people's hands. He's one of these guys who will go up and he'll put his hand on another man's shoulder and stand there and talk to you with touching it. And there's ways that men will touch women that are completely non-sexual, but he needs lots of physical touch, and he's starving right now.
I'm starving too, girl. I mean, I'm with that guy. I mean, that's my love language too. I love the human touch. And I think my daughter's like at a point where she's just like, Dad, like enough's enough, like get away from me, because she's cute. She's only 10 years old. My son's 7. And I love hugging my kids and kissing them and stuff like that. And after a while, they're just like, Dad, you're embarrassing me. I'm like, I need that human touch, Sophia. So I'm with that guy, Robin. I feel that guy.
Yeah, me too. I have found I remember when we walked back on the court after 2.5 months of not being allowed to play tennis, and one of my tennis teammates came up to me, who's a retired medical doctor, and she said, is it okay if I hug you? And I started to cry because I realized, first of all, how much I miss hugs, but also something broke in my heart when she asked me if she could give me a hug.
Yeah, I know. And I wish I could have hugged my father when I saw him last week. Are you aware that I got banned on TikTok?
No, I'm not on TikTok, but what do people get banned on TikTok?
Oh my God. Well, it's a Chinese app. So these guys are serious. They don't mess around when it comes to censorship.
Yeah.
So if I could just explain this to your audience, I don't mean to bore your audience, but this is actually a very, very important point. So right now on Instagram, I have about 160,000 people who actually care about what I have to say. And I'm grateful for that. Thank you so much. Yep. But on TikTok, I had over 500,000 kids, right? And so this is a great opportunity for me to unbrainwash the kids to the truth of healthcare, right? Not disease care, but healthcare. How to take better care of yourself. And I would say things like, hey kids, does it make sense that a vaccine usually takes about 7 to 20 years, depending on the vaccine to manufacture and produce from start to finish. And they're making this in about a year. What do you guys think? Boom, ban.
Just for that, you just did a little video saying, do you think it's okay that we're fast tracking a vaccine? What do you think, kids?
Well, if I could be truthful with you, I am a psychiatrist, so I'm playing these mind games, right? So I'm trying to stay under the radar with the Chinese. Because censorship, a lot of people get banned. They don't even get second chances. It's just like, boom, not even a warning. So I'll put in like little messages here and there, like, hey, does it make sense that we're being locked down for this virus, quote unquote, that's killing 0.04% of the population? It's mostly the elderly population. Of course, they should be taking more careful measures. But there's not a single case, at least that I know, of a child infecting a school teacher, right? So does it make sense? So I would raise questions. I won't say this is bad for you, this is good, this is bad. I would pose it into question, because we all know that when someone could reason for themselves and come to their own logical conclusions that this is what I believe in, they're more likely to act than me saying, hey, don't do this or do that. So I always like to ask these questions. And so I think the Chinese were catching on to it. And the last time I went on my TikTok live, talking to a bunch of teenagers and just bringing this topic up, like, hey, does it make sense that Moderna, this vaccine company that's already in stage 3 clinical trials, is my last understanding of this, like, does that make sense that this pandemic situation happened, it began in March of 2020, and they're already in phase 3 clinical trials, and every phase clinical trial takes a few years. Like, does that make sense? So the Chinese were not happy about that. Boom. So 500,000 followers gone. And the reason why that hurts, Robin, is because it's a lot easier to influence someone with a developing brain, a developing mind, versus someone like my father. My father's 80 years old. So me trying to explain to him some science is like, hey, everything that you're seeing in the Korean and the mainstream news, you have to question that. And he's like, are you out of your mind? I mean, the news says this, so it has to be true. So it's very hard to influence the older population, but the kids when I preach on my TikTok live. They're like, oh my God, I didn't really think of it that way. And then so I felt that this was a great opportunity for me to awaken the youth of America and some people in the UK and Australia that were following my account. So that's why like this thing is so sinister, Robin, that when I'm speaking facts, this isn't even conspiracy. This is facts that a vaccine takes many years to produce, and they're doing this in record time, and I get banned for things like that. So I'm more convinced than ever that there's some greater agenda going around. I don't know exactly what that is. Maybe it's political. Maybe it's one world government. It's still up for debates. I'm not 100% certain, but something's definitely not making sense. I think whether you're on one side or the other, the mask side or the anti-mask side or so on, one thing that we have to agree upon at this point is that we're not being told the full truth. That's where I stand firmly on.
I think that you put together a pretty complete picture if you pay attention for quite a long time to what is getting banned, to what exact kind of content is getting banned on all these different social media platforms, and how they're all banning similar content. I mean, they're not all identical. For instance, I know that a few months ago, Twitter banned all content on food shortages that are coming up. Which,
really?
Yeah, which is crazy. I don't know that any of the other ones have, but if you literally talk about food shortages or post content like that on Twitter, people were getting banned. I yesterday posted a video of a Canadian driving in a little island in Canada, but very close to the Portland border, where he's driving down the road and there's like 100 Chinese troops. And I posted that on my personal page on Facebook, and that's not my public figure page, and it's not the Green Smoothie Girl page or any of our private pages that are much bigger, but my personal page is still like 9,000 following plus the 5,000 friends. So I posted on there, not anywhere else, not on my big pages. And 2 minutes later, the link had been removed and I was banned for 24 hours.
Wait, we talking about Facebook or IG?
Facebook.
Really?
So if you start to make a list, like a physical list of all the kinds of content that's being banned, then a really clear picture comes together, I think, of what the political agenda is. And then you could kind of start to make inferences about why from there. But I'm really discouraged to hear that TikTok banned you like that. And you had 150,000 followers there.
Oh, no. 500,000.
Oh,
500,000. Yeah, that's, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah.
I work my tail off to win to earn the trust of the kids, of the teenagers. And there's some adults there too, but I really liked, I have a very youthful personality. If you ever check out my social media, like I'm pretty out there. But yeah, I really enjoyed connecting with the kids, and I definitely missed that for sure, because it was a tremendous opportunity for me to awaken the youth of our country. But
I'm going to post about that. I'm going to post about your experience of getting banned, because I don't really know people who are on TikTok. It's way outside my realm. We're mostly on Facebook. We have a presence on all of them, but I personally am really involved with Facebook, and we've been censored, and we've been sanctioned a number of times. My theory is, and it's based on some things that some former Google employees have said, but I believe it's entirely possible that all of us influencers who are speaking up, especially on the vaccine issue, since you mentioned that, and I've been heavily censored for my comments about and sharing information about vaccines, but I think they're going to deplatform all of us right before the vaccine comes out, for the obvious reasons. So we need to prepare for that and get on the freedom platforms probably.
Or like a Telegram, something else. Maybe your Facebook could be about wellness, and then on the Telegram we could talk about more the stuff, the truthful stuff.
Yeah, I've sort of sectioned off my followers so that the people who just, who are like yelling at me, like, we don't want to hear what you have to say about the virus, Green Smoothie Girl. We just want recipes about healthy living. So they're on Green Smoothie Girl, and now I speak up. At first, it was 54% of my audience in my weekly polls said that they supported the economic shutdown. And within 8 weeks, it had gone from 54% to 6%. So my audience was pretty quick to wake up. They're almost, like well over half were not at all seeing what was going on in the beginning. And I think we can forgive people that. It was very confusing to have the media go so hard about this whole virus story, that so much of it has turned out to be false. And yet people, you're not just your dad, my in-laws are the same. Like whatever the news tells them is as close to fact as you can find. Like I just literally have never entertained that the media may be being used, for instance, by 50 to 70% of the dollars that flow into mainstream media for advertising, et cetera, is from pharma. So
And also, like, I'm sure you talked about this with many of your guests, and you had some really amazing guests about just like health foods to help build up your immune system, right? I mean, if this thing is that dangerous, then I would imagine that the media would like to educate the public on how to protect ourselves through natural means.
never.
So we don't have to get into all the health foods, and we could go on and on about that. But if I could go over a couple of numbers that I think is very important for people to understand about this whole substance abuse and mental health situation that we're involved in. On a global scale, Robin, about 800,000 people die from suicide a year. And they're estimating that that number is going to increase about 20 to 30% in the US alone. Increase in firearm sales drastically. The suicide hotline calls are up about 800% already. Alcohol sales since March, since this whole pandemic began, are up about 250%. Why are we not, how is it, I mean, this is old news at this point, but how is it that a liquor store is an essential business? Now, a lot of people who like drinking their wine, they're going to hate me for saying that, but I'm just being real with you guys. Like, how is that an essential business? And then I have a friend who's a real estate agent, and he can't show a couple a home, at least in the beginning of this whole situation, but while the liquor stores were open, it drives up a lot of different emotions in me. I'm trying to contain my composure while I'm talking to you, but what's going on right now is not fair to the American people and the people on a global scale. And we really need to focus more on this mental health, the silent epidemic, I would say. Substance abuse is on the rise, depression, anxiety, you name it. That's all on the rise. And our practice is very busy. We're grateful to be able to make a living, but people don't know what to do right now. And when they're feeling uncomfortable, the easy thing to do is to go back to their old patterns that used to make them feel better, that gives them some level of instant gratification despite the long-term pain. So that's why this alcohol situation is like drastically on the rise. A lot of my former clients that I've successfully detoxed from alcohol, and they've been alcohol-free for 1.5 plus years, great job, right? And of course, the 12-step meetings were closed, and there were a lot of like virtual meetings that just didn't do the same as when you're with other people. The liquor stores are open. They're feeling really lousy. They don't have a job. They're stressed about money. They have to look at their kids in the eye and say, sorry, but I'm not going to be able to buy you this. I know I promised you, but we're having a tough time. So when that happens, what do people do? They initially want to mask their pain. People use a drug or an alcohol always for a reason. It's either to feel better, to alleviate pain, emotional or physical, or to enhance performance of some sort. So when people are in emotional pain and they want to feel better, it's no wonder why so many people gravitate towards a drug or an alcohol to feel better. And that's a big issue right now.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's hard to talk about, but I totally resonate with what you say, that people are always using those substances like alcohol. And a lot of people are telling me that they're using more alcohol than they did before. They're either doing it to feel better or to mask pain. So if you're listening to this and you're using some kind of substance or some kind of food, I hope that you'll sit with this and ask yourself, am I doing this to feel better? Am I doing this to mask pain? And if so, is it really working for me? How's it going for you the next morning? How's it going for the weight gain and all that? What kind of help do you offer them, Dr. Yee, those who are suffering with addiction? And like right now, I'm sure you could work 7 days a week because there's so much demand for services.
My goodness. Yeah. But I also have to take time for time with me, right? That connection with myself, and take time for me and my loved ones as well. So, okay. So here's something that I would ask all your audiences to consider, right? So if you don't feel very good, what happens is you go to see a psychiatrist, let's just say, right? And say, I don't feel very good. I feel depressed. I feel anxious. And then the psychiatrist says, have you heard of, this medication, Lexapro, Prozac, all these medications that are out there. And the thing is, people have to understand that these medications affect this. Okay, so the SSRI class, right? You've heard of the serotonin, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
Yep.
So medications like Zoloft, Prozac, Paxil, Lexapro, so on. These medications do not contain a single molecule of serotonin in there. So serotonin is this neurotransmitter that's responsible for the feeling of joy, love, positivity. You know, when you're in love, your serotonin's spiking up. Dopamine is a very popular neurotransmitter. That's the neurotransmitter responsible for the sense of pleasure, motivation, and focus. That's why you have this medication like Adderall that stimulates the release of dopamine and norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is another neurotransmitter that's responsible for a sense of alertness. And when people take a medication like Adderall, where there's like an ADHD epidemic in our country, apparently. So a lot of people are prescribed these medications. And I will say that some people do benefit from it. Some people have like really, really bad like attention issues. You don't have to be a psychiatrist to know that someone has some serious attention issues. So maybe temporarily a medication could be helpful in some way. But generally speaking, I'm noticing that a lot of people are over-medicated, misdiagnosed. And I asked those guys to think about this. Like, where does dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, endorphins, where did these neurotransmitters come from? Because these medications do not contain a single molecule of any of these things. They just go and do things to your brain and, you know, manipulate the system. It comes from the foods that we eat, that we choose to eat, peoples, you know, and trying to convince someone to eat like 2 bags of pumpkin seeds so that they could get a solid dose of tryptophan in their diet. So tryptophan, of course, is an amino acid that gets converted to 5-HTP in the body through the help of a B complex and magnesium. And then that in turn gets converted to serotonin when there's light outside. And now when it's nighttime, then serotonin gets converted to melatonin. And we need, you know, tryptophan as an amino acid to help us sleep properly too. Dopamine, that's another, is a neurotransmitter that's responsible for pleasure, motivation, and focus. Just a sense of emotional wellness. But where does dopamine come from? It comes from the foods that we eat. You know, it doesn't come from Adderall. It comes from the foods that we eat. So when I try to convince someone that they should start taking foods that are rich in tyrosine. Tyrosine is the amino acid that your body needs to produce dopamine. In conjunction with tyrosine, you need like a B complex, which are found in green vegetables. You also need magnesium that are found in nuts and seeds. So when I start going over all the foods that people need to eat to optimize their neurotransmitter system, they start getting mad at me because they're like, well, how do you expect me to eat all this shit? And it's like, okay, so then I came up with this idea to start implementing supplementation. Now, I'm hoping that we all could agree that eating real foods is better than eating an orange or a strawberry to get your vitamin C is a lot better than taking a supplement that has vitamin C in there, right? But if you're not willing to eat properly, then I believe that it's better to supplement than to not supplement. And what I've noticed that with my clients is that when I start recommending supplements for those guys that are not willing to totally revamp their diet, but maybe make a 20% improvement on real foods versus fake foods. And then I ask them to take a B complex, take some 5-HTP, take some tyrosine, along with some magnesium. They start feeling better. Interestingly, their medication works better because now they actually have more serotonin and more dopamine in their system. I've also noticed that people who are in the recovery community, when I give these cocktails of supplements, their cravings and their urges, from my clinical experience, have drastically decreased. Their frequency and intensity of the thoughts of the drugs have drastically increased. So the problem with that, however, is that people don't want to carry around 10 to 15 supplements in their bag and take it in the morning and take it in the afternoon. And that became a problem and it became very costly. So recently, me and Dr. Furman, actually, and 2 other doctors, 2 other psychiatrists, came up with a cocktail of these ingredients. It's nothing new. You know, you could buy these individual ingredients separately. We just made it easier in combining into one bottle and having like a breakfast multivitamin shake for the mind. So that's something that I think would be, whether people decide to go on to Beyond Recovery or not, they should definitely look into certain supplementations, particularly tyrosine 5-HTP, B complex, and magnesium. If anyone has issues with mood, they're in recovery, that's something that could make a tremendous difference in their lives.
We'll make sure and put a link to your supplement in the show notes. So it has does it have all of those things in it, and in taking it once or twice a day is appropriate, like so that is your body using it at all the right times if you're taking it all together as magnesium, B complex, 5-HTP, and tyrosine?
Yeah, there's probably about like 11 other ingredients in there that I didn't mention. And, I was looking at your website and you talk about detoxing, right? And
I've taken 20,000 people through a 26-day detox, and it's entirely plant-based, and it has different, phases where we, go deeper and we go deeper and we go deeper. Got to start with the GI tract. So we clean out the colon first, and all food and practices that I think you'd approve of.
I couldn't agree with you more. And that's the thing. If people have been eating like garbage for 20 plus years, let's just say, and then they start eating like some health foods, that's not impressive for me. What's more impressive is you detox. Get the bad stuff out first so that when you put in the good stuff, they actually have some real estate space in your body to do the work that they're supposed to do. And so many people have very toxic ingredients filled in their body all the time. And then especially people who are like on poly medications here and just eating toxic fake foods. They have a lot of toxins in their system. So I absolutely encourage people to do a detox first. It's actually better to do a detox and cleanse the body first than to start just eating right and have all the bad stuff in their system. So I'm super happy to know that you're encouraging detox. But having said that, with the name of the supplement is Beyond Recovery. And basically we added about 7 ingredients in there to help facilitate cleansing of the body. And I agree with you, Robin. It's much better to do like a program like yours, right? When you actually like are with the people and you're helping them step by step of how to detox properly. But there are a lot of other people, Robin, that are not willing to do that. It's not that they can't. They're not willing to do so. And so it is my belief that it's better to give them a supplement for the people who are not willing to, that could help cleanse out their body than not do that at all. So that's why in this this cocktail that we produce, it's called Modern Detox. It's like a new way of cleansing, and not to underestimate anything that you're doing. I would fully support that what you're doing is a lot better than taking a supplement. But for those people who are not willing to, or who don't have the time, or they have multiple different reasons why they cannot do something, there's a collection of ingredients that could help cleanse out your body, like chaga mushroom, for example, Nigella black seed oil. And then there's also the ingredients that help promote neurotransmitter synthesis, specifically dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins, which are the 3 big key neurotransmitters that we're seeing in mental wellness all the time.
Well, I'm excited to try them. I think I want to try both of them. We could all use an emotional health boost these days, and I'm really glad that you're helping people with these nutrients that are missing for so many people. Ahead of, I'm sure you ask them to do that before you put them on a psychotropic, even though some of them come to you already on a psychotropic, right?
Exactly. You'll be amazed, Robin. There are people that come into my practice saying that, hey, I don't think this is working out with my former psychiatrist, and I'm on 12 medications. And then, Robin, check this out. I would do a thyroid test, and the thyroid levels are all jacked up. So they go from 12 to 2 in a matter of like 2 weeks. It's amazing. Some people have this thing called a MTHFR gene mutation. It sounds really bad, but a lot of people globally have this, especially if they struggle with mood. And that's basically a condition where your body doesn't know how to process folic acid properly. So, the treatment for that is not more psychiatric medications, but activated methylfolate, which is activated vitamin B9. Some people are vitamin D deficient. Their levels are like 10. We're supposed to be somewhere between like 30 to 49 or 50 or so, according to Dr. Furman. And when people are vitamin D deficient, they feel tired. They feel lack of motivation. They feel depressed. Vitamin D is important for the synthesis of dopamine. So it's amazing how so many people come in. I check their levels, and their levels are all jacked up, are off, and it's a simple correction. And all this time, their body was screaming to them, anxiety and depression, poor focus. And that was a communication saying, the way you're taking care of yourself is totally out of whack. So my job is to help investigate the core root of what's going on. I see medications as like a form of a Band-Aid to mask a wound. And sometimes a Band-Aid isn't necessary. If you cut yourself and you're bleeding, it might be good to put on a Band-Aid to slow down the breathing while you investigate why you're bleeding in the first place. So while people like you are doing the true healing work, because doctors, any schmuck doctor could prescribe medication, but it's very rare that we find someone like you, Robin, that's really going out there to try to heal people, right? So I have so much more respect for the healers of this world, the therapists, the nutritionists, the yoga coaches. These guys are the ones that are really creating changes and empowering people to become their number one doctors, not some schmuck MD like myself, although I'm a different kind of MD, to really empower themselves to help them become their number one doctors. That's my mission, and I think we're on the same page with that.
I agree, and I've really enjoyed learning from you today. Give us any last words of advice for our audience and tell them where they can follow you online.
Oh, thank you for the plug. So primarily my social media channel that I invest the most of my time on is Instagram, and it's Joe Yi MD. It's JOYIMD. And that's where I talk about some of the, not only recovery, mental health, but about some of the sciences behind this whole, global pandemic situation. So I think people could find a lot of good information. I think the difference in my channel compared to some of the other guys is I make it entertaining, if that even makes sense. I do a lot of skits with my daughter, with other people, and it's a good way of inspiring hope and emotion, such as laughter and courage, to help create change, than to say, hey, these are the stats. Don't believe this, believe this. That's not how I do it. I present a little story, and I usually get some pretty good traction, and people seem to respect that. So that's, people can find me there. As far as the supplement line, I appreciate the opportunity for a plug here, but it's called Beyond Recovery, beyondrecovery.com. There's a guy named Brandon Novak, who's the leader of the recovery movement, and he's working with us as well. So we're super thrilled to be able to work with some really amazing people, including Dr. Furman, to bring this out to people. So beyondrecovery.com. And final words, I'm asking everyone to please, please, please try to learn to become your number one doctor. You have to be the CEO of your healthcare, not some doctor that you meet for 10, 15 minutes. I believe that if you do have a relationship with the doctor, or if you're starting a new relationship, you should allow a doctor to earn your trust. Isn't it amazing that people give out trust for free? It's like, you got to allow someone to earn your trust. And how did they earn your trust? By giving you results. So if you do a detox with Robin and you feel better, then I believe it's only fair that you trust Robin more. And if Robin says, hey, eat more bananas and kale because it's good for you, you should listen to her. You should allow people to earn your trust, not just give them trust for free. And until you form a partnership with your doctor, because a doctor might know some medical stuff better than you, but you are ultimately, you have the PhD in your own life experience. No one knows how you feel and what you experience better than you. So it has to be a collaboration. So if you see a doctor who thinks they know more than you and saying, you got to do X, Y, and Z, 1, 2, 3, without listening to you, that's not the right person for you. If you could find someone who you could form a partnership with and do research together and try out different things, what works and what doesn't, what works for you, that's a great relationship. And if that person's helping you achieve results, then I only believe it's fair that that doctor or that professional earns more of your trust, and then you could have that person as a consultant on your wellness journey. But ultimately, you are the CEO of your own destiny and your own healthcare.
That is so empowering. So everyone listening, I'm going to put in the show notes, if you haven't done the Green Smoothie Girl Detox, I'll give you the link to that, because we definitely have people coming to us, even though we aren't like actively out there promoting it right now. We always have support online for it. But you can jump into the Green Smoothie Girl Detox, because every day we have people saying, don't you guys have something I could detox? I want to feel better. Usually I'd say I want to feel better emotionally, but also physically. We don't want to be dependent on, there's a theme lately on my show, we don't want to be dependent on Western medicine right now. It is not a great time to have to be in a hospital or seeing a doctor if you can stay well. But I'm also going to put links to the 2 supplements One that you said will stimulate the body's production of dopamine and serotonin, all those feel good, the happy hormones. And also you talked about 2 different supplements. We'll get the links all lined up. We'll put them down below. And thank you so much. I hope that you get your TikTok audience back. I'm just like thunderstruck by losing 500,000 people at once. And I'm sorry that, you know, China is involved in the censorship game, but, you know, definitely go appeal to them, because I know some people have been able to get their channels back, but we're rooting for you over here at Green Smoothie Girl, Dr. Yi.
Thank you so much, Robin. It was an honor to be on your show, and thank you, the audience who allowed me to have an opportunity to have a small little voice in your life. Thank you so much for listening to this.